Hey everyone, today's going to be a bit of a different style day that I'm going to be leading, so more of a stretch or rolling day. It's important to keep in mind that this stuff can happen on your workout days as well, and most likely should. And with the nature of COVID, again, we're probably sitting around a little bit longer than we want to, so I'd encourage doing this a couple times a day. We should have the time for it, whether or not that's before or after a workout, before bed. Whenever you can get it in, please feel free to. I'm going to go over basically full body stretch or mobility. What I'm going to be using for the most part is a lacrosse ball, a foam roller, or even just body weight stretches in that static positions or the holds. So keep in mind a couple things. None of this should ever hurt. You should definitely feel the stretch. As far as a subjective measure, 7 out of 10 for intensity is usually the best thing to go off of. As far as time, I'm going to show very short form versions. Feel free to hold each stretch for around 30 to 45 seconds. Or if you're rolling and releasing, roll and release until there's no longer anything else to work on. Get those knots out of the body and make sure that we throw a bit of tension back in at the end in order to keep that release held as long as possible. If you have any questions, as always, get a hold of the store, myself, anyone else for that matter who can help out with this aspect, and you should be more than fine. So one of the last things to keep in mind is, along with the duration of the stretch being held, the intensity, as mentioned, should be about a 7 out of 10, but if you are using a lacrosse ball or foam roller, even with the body weight held stretches, make sure you don't feel any numbness or tingling as well. If you feel that numbness or tingling, you could be on a nerve or again some form of compression that we just don't want, so make sure you're moving around and avoiding those spots if we can. For the first one, I'm going to actually roll the feet, but just give a little bit of a demonstration here on the hand. So if you picture my hand with the thumb being the big toe, pinky being the little toe, and the bottom of the palm of my hand being the heel, I'm going to use a lacrosse ball to roll across the the ball of the foot to the outside, down the side, coming back up the middle. If we hit any hot spots or trigger points or knots in that area, what we can do is again press down the ball with our foot, roll up and down, left to right, or almost even think of ashing out a cigarette, whatever helps move those knots out of place. So once again, you're standing, lacrosse ball underneath the feet, big toe, all the way across to the little toe, outside and down to the bottom of the heel, up the middle. And as you go over that area a few times, again, just make note where you feel those hot spots. Get a bit more rolling sensation in there. Again, ash out that analogy of the cigarette, coming back to the bottom and all the way back up. That's how we can get through the feet. Again, do as many times as needed. What I'm going to go to next is the calves and the peroneals. The peroneals are the muscles on the outside of the leg down here that would almost follow the pant seam if you had pants on. So I prefer a bit of a bigger object for this one, just to make sure that the intensity is not too high. And what I'm going to do is start just above the Achilles tendon. That way, again, I'm not compressing any of that cartilage as far as the tissue. So just below the big teardrop or the calf muscle, that's going to be the start of the soleus. What we're going to do is again let the leg rest on the roller. If you need a bit more intensity or pressure, you can drop the other foot on top. Lean back, keep the posture proud. I'm breaking the calf up into 4 sections, so I'm going to roll up and down in the first section. They're about an inch, maybe 2 as far as the length of the roll. I'm also going to roll my feet in and out. That way, in case the inner or medial side of the calf is tighter, I bias that side. Or if it's the outside, again, I can roll up and down after the left to right movements. So then once the bottom part is done, lift your leg up, roll the roller up an inch or 2 again, hitting the second part, drop down only if you need. Certain parts of the calf might be a bit more tight than others. And again, we're spanning that area, figuring out where the knots are, and then rolling and releasing. And as mentioned, if you would like to hit the peroneal side of things, turn the body, turn the leg. Again, making sure we're not directly on any bone or nerve as we release the intended area. That will cover the calf and the peroneals as far as the roller. So let's say you don't have access to that foam roller or lacrosse ball. What you can do as far as this will hit the bottom of the feet, the calves, and also the peroneals, depending on where the angle of the foot lie. But all you need is something to basically prop your toes up against. If you have a big book or something that's again sturdy, I will demo with the lacrosse ball, but it doesn't have to be the lacrosse ball that you use. But again, if the toes are up and we're leaning forward, that will stretch all through the back of the calf. And again, if we want to hit different parts of that, you can turn the toes in, turn the toes out, and then again walk forward. hold that stretch until again the release is no longer there. The one thing I will say with this one is try not to use your back leg as a mechanism of pushing. The reason why I step forward is so that both feet can be flat, and that way I get the stretch without shortening the other side. Oftentimes against a wall, you'll see someone pushing in like so, with that heel up. That's where that calf muscle is actually shortening, defeating the purpose of the stretch. So just make sure you're aware of what the rest of the body is doing as well. So next is going to be that tibialis anterior muscle, along with a few of the toe extensor muscles. This one's important to stretch, especially if you started running. This is often the area that people refer to as shin splints, so it's nice to again let this area cool and calm down, especially with an increased volume of running. I'm going to get into what would be a pigeon pose, use the roller, and I'm going to prop my right leg on top of this roller, right on the outside of the shin. Again, I'm not on the bone. From the bottom position, working my way up. Again, I'll span out a couple inches, seek out what's tight, and then slowly roll my toes in and out, point and extend as well. This is more of a pinion stretch method until again, I have gotten over the whole area. You'll notice most of my movements are pretty deliberate. There's no speed to this one. Rushing through it doesn't give you a better result, so please take your time and make sure you are breathing out on those intense spots. So again, if the roller is not for you, what I'm going to do is basically just a static hold. It's going to look like I'm bending or twisting my ankle. Please note that most of the weight's going to be on the leg that is flat, and I'm just going to manipulate my body in order to again stretch that tibialis anterior. If you need something for balance, just make sure you have something to hang on to close by. So again, with this foot, I'm almost going to roll onto the outside edge of my ankle, and then as I lean away, you may feel a stretch on the outside of the hip as well. That's okay, but we should definitely be feeling something through that tibialis anterior or just on the outside of the shin. Feel free to again play around with a bit of rotation, stepping forward in different directions. Just make sure that you hit the area that is intended for the stretch. Okay, so next will be the hamstrings, and again, I'm just going to show a quick portion of each. What we're going to do for me is at least use the roller. The ball is a little bit too small for this one, almost negating the effects of the stretch. So get something a little bit bigger for a bigger surface area. What I'll do is again, lean back, open up. The roller is just above my knee, but on the, again, hamstring component of my leg. What I usually do here is again, drop this other leg on top. That way I actually feel the muscles being mobilized with the roller. I'm going to scrape left and right, turn my toes in and out. Once I have again that knot or that tight spot, I can roll up and down until about the middle of the hamstring. Again, once that's done, inch the roller up into the muscle belly or the middle part of the hamstring. Same idea, let the leg drop. Just in case this is again not enough for you as far as intensity, you're allowed to lift the hips up off the ground and again roll the desired amount of times to release the area. If of course, again, the roller is not available, easy couple stretches for the hamstrings. Try to keep the back straight, push the hips back, reach down, and again, we should feel that stretch in the back of the legs. If you want to break each one up on their own, I conveniently have a couch nearby. I can prop one leg up almost like a hurdler stretch, and again, reach for that toe, trying to keep the posture and brace through my torso. Upcoming next is going to be roller version for the glutes. So again, the nice thing with this style of rollers is a plastic spine. It's not really compressible, but it also makes it a bit more intense. So just pick your method of rolling appropriately. What we'll do is sit on the roller. Again, I'm going to bias my right side, bring the right leg up and over almost like a figure four. Turn a little bit so we bias that right side, and we can roll up and down. It's a silly analogy, but it's almost like a game of battleship. You're really just seeking to find that precise spot. So if you're a little off, just keep moving. Once you find the desired area, again, we can twist left and right. We can roll up and down. We can even extend and flex the hip or the leg. And that way we work all the tissue through that area. Easy one to supplement if you do not want to use the roller is that pigeon stretch. So again, bring the leg up. Closer the chest comes to the ground, the more you can stretch. Or if your right leg's forward, I show this one in class quite a bit, twist and shoulder check over that right side. That can be another way to increase the stretch as well. All right, so next is quad time. Again, biasing a bigger muscle group so that I actually feel it, I will use the roller. You'll note I have some pretty hard flooring. That's why I've thrown a mat down. If this is too intense, you can place a couple towels underneath or find a carpeted surface as well. But for the most part with the roller, what's gonna happen is we're gonna go into 4 parts. We're gonna go just above the kneecap on the bottom of the quad, that's section 1, inch or 2 up section 2, following that until we're at the hip flexor area. So take a plank position. In my case, the left leg is on top. As shown, what I will do is again, an inch or 2 of rolling, just getting accustomed to the roller, letting myself know how much pressure or tension there is. I'll scrape left to right, or plant the toe and turn the heel left to right. And everyone's favorite, based on all the reaction in classes, make sure you can breathe out, and this is not too intense, but breathe and let the heel rise. After at least 4 in each section, I'll bring the roller up a little as I've already shown. Again, up and down, left to right, and letting that heel raise towards the roof. That is the quads. So again, just another easy static hold stretch. Sitting down, bring my right heel towards my glutes. Then what I'll do is I'll drop down to my elbow, again feeling the stretch in that quadricep and maybe even hip flexor area. If you need a bit more of a stretch, you can lay the back all the way down to the ground, or again modify by sitting up if you need less. So the hip flexor is actually composed of 2 different muscles, the iliacus and the psoas major. We're going to probably bias the psoas major with the lacrosse ball here. So again, originates from the spine, comes down, attaches onto the femur. With the lacrosse ball, basically we're going to find those guitar strings as far as the sensation, place the ball there, lay on the ball. Again, distribute the weight through the elbows, the hands, and the foot that is not resting on the ball if you need to take some pressure off. And although it's hard to see, I'm just kind of letting my body roll left and right. And then I'll also roll up and down, trying to stay on the hip flexor fibers. One that you can do with or without the ball. Take a knee position, and again, let the hips push forward, really feeling that stretch. You can bring the same side arm up to increase the stretch, and even reach over and across if you need just a bit more. All right, so for the T-spine or the thoracic spine, the roller is definitely my go-to as far as tools if I'm using one. It's important to note that the roller should never go below the bottom of the shoulder blades, or basically the bra strap if you're wearing one. The spinous process just stick out too much in the lower part of the back, which is why we do not want to have something that covers that surface. So just again, make sure you're not below the shoulder blades, and we do not have to roll all the way up to the neck, so stop just at the traps and the deltoid region or the shoulders. So again, knowing where that spot is, lean back onto the roller, support your head, and that way there's no neck tension. From here, feet and hips are flat. I'm going to look up and over, hold, might even feel a crack or two or an adjustment. Coming back up. Each time, just trying to get a little closer to the ground, but please again, do not force anything. After a few of those, what we can do is again, support the head. This time I will lift the hips, and I'll roll again to the upper trap, just shy of the neck. Stopping at the bottom of the shoulder blades. Feel free to lean a little bit to one side if you normally have some tension there, or if you want to make it a little more intense from that neutral position, close the elbows closer together and roll up and down. So unlike the lower part of the back, having the scapulas or shoulder blades, along with a lot of the musculature that surrounds those areas, it is a-okay to roll up and down as demonstrated, as long as it's from the bottom of the shoulder blades and upwards. So a couple of versions or options if you're not using the roller. Things like cat camel or cat cow. Can be really nice for that thoracic. From here, trying to maintain my sternum straight to the ground. This one's called elbow to sky. Can be really good, or even from this position, letting the chest drop. My left arm's going to shoot forward as my right arm tries to come through that space. So lats are going to be next, again down the side of the body. One of the bigger muscles that help with those pull movements, but one of the ones that people don't realize often also internally rotate the shoulders based on their attachment. So again, not wanting too much pressure, I'm going to use the roller, taking a side plank position, just allowing, again, the roller to cover those muscles, rolling up and down. If you find a knot, again, you can roll forward and back. You can also move the hand almost like a wood chop motion. Feel free to support the head if you need, or again, use even the other hand just so that that neck does not have any unwanted tension. Easy one to do from the ground position for the lats. Have both hands out in front of you. Sit on back towards the heels, or if you want to bias one side versus the other, if I turn to my left and then try to sit back, I will definitely feel a lot more of a stretch on the right side, and then vice versa. So the pec major and pec minor muscles will be next. The pec major is that bigger chest muscle, and the pec minor is a smaller muscle underneath. Again, just without wanting too much pressure, I'm going to use the roller, set it up on a bit of an angle, show my right side. Roller's placed underneath the chest muscle, not hurting the sternum or collarbone or anything like that. And then again, I'm going to move this arm in a spanning-like motion. I can bring it up off the ground, press it down into the ground. I can also use my toes and my non-stretched hand to push my weight up and then to roll up and down as well. Now, more times than not, that's most likely going to hit the pec major. So I use a little bit of self-myofascial release with my hand, or SMR, to find the pec minor. Pec minor starts on the coracoid process, which is one of those bony protrusions. So if you walk your hand down your collarbone, once you hit the first bump, that's your acromion process. Find the bump below it, that's your coracoid process. From here, in a bit of a diagonal motion to ribs 3, 4, and 5, that is your pec minor. So what I try to do is, again, just dig in deep. Once I find a little bit of a knot, then same idea, I'll move my hands in different directions to really work that area out. If you're not going to use a roller or lacrosse ball, or don't like the digging sensation, feel free again to find a wall. Hand on the wall, turning away, and that'll help stretch the pecs. If there's no pain, try to get a little higher and a little closer to the wall as you turn away again, and that'll hit the pec minor just a little bit more in comparison. And last but not least is going to be the neck section. So I don't usually use a lacrosse ball or foam roller here. Sometimes I'll use that Theracane that I've shown before, but since not everyone has one, what I'm going to do is just show some movements and stretch holds, along with one thing from my fascial stretch therapy certification as well. So it's important to, again, realize how mobile the neck is, making sure that we stretch all of its components. So shoulder checks, pardon me, are great. We can do side flexion, trying to bring the right ear down to the right shoulder, and vice versa. And it's important also to stretch the flexor side or the front side by looking up, and to stretch the extensor or the back side by looking down. Now again, you're going to hold for a lot longer than I've demonstrated just to get through it all, but the FST or fascial stretch movement or stretch pattern is going to be, again, walk your hand down to that little groove on the collarbone, pin some tissue just below the collarbone when the head is tilted down. When I've pulled that tissue down, I'm going to make sure it stays in place. I'm going to look my head up towards the sky, look away from the hand, back to starting position, and then just trying to gather a little bit more tissue to go through the stretch as many times as needed. Hopefully everyone gets a chance to do this. Let me know again if you have any questions, and stay mobile. The important thing to realize here is that we can only work out as hard as you recover, so make sure that you take this seriously as well. Goodbye for now.